Good evening. This meeting of the Manheim Township School Board is now called to order. Welcome to everyone here in person and those joining us online. In addition to the live stream, both audio and video are being recorded. Nurture and challenge for success is our district's mission. It serves as a reminder of our intent to enable every Manheim Township student to learn, grow, and thrive. Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I also just want to quickly apologize for starting a couple of minutes late tonight. Try to not ever have that happen, so appreciate everyone's patience. And I have a few announcements before we begin into our exciting presentations for the evening. First of all, members of our community are encouraged to participate in board meetings in person or to view them online. In support of both transparency and community engagement, recordings of meetings can now also be watched afterwards on the district's YouTube channel. And also, before we begin tonight, I'd like to observe a few other important observances and celebrations occurring this month. First, February is Black History Month. This is a time to honor and reflect on the achievements, contributions, and experiences of Black individuals who have shaped our nation and our community. This is not a footnote in America's story. It is a blueprint. We must also name what many are feeling right now in this political moment, where oppression and suppression are increasingly visible. The federal government is taking steps to erase Black truth from museums and public spaces across the country. Defending and uplifting Black History Month is as important as ever. And throughout this month, I'm happy to say that our schools will be highlighting opportunities for learning, reflection, and meaningful conversation. And we encourage our community to join us in celebrating and learning together. Also, this is National School Counselors Week. I'm not sure how many else of you have noticed. I think Mrs. Davidson's been putting out a number of posts highlighting our school counselors on her social media page, and I think it's been spectacular. We are celebrating our school counselors with the theme of School Counselors Amplifying Students' Success. We are incredibly grateful for our school counselors across the district who support students academically, socially, and emotionally each and every day. Their dedication, compassion, and commitment play a vital role in helping students thrive, and we thank them for the impact that they make in our schools. And also, I just want to recognize that yesterday was National Signing Day. I know at least Dr. McCardle was there, Dr. Pate Hefty was there. We are proud to celebrate our 24 student athletes who officially committed to continue their academic and athletic careers at the collegiate level. This is a tremendous accomplishment that reflects years of hard work, perseverance, and support from families, coaches, and educators. Congratulations to all our student athletes on this exciting milestone. And then finally, the Board of School Directors met in executive session immediately before this meeting to discuss confidential personnel matters, including the terms and conditions of employment of current and prospective employees. And also the board will meet in executive session this evening immediately following this meeting, solely for the receipt of information from our attorneys. And now we are done with our announcements, and I'm happy to welcome Mr. Linke, Mr. Bladen, Mr. Harkler. You're not the Harkler Road. Harkler Road. You've been talking to us for months. I finally feel like I got it. Harkler Road. I apologize. I'll get there with you. But welcome from our friends at RLPS Architects to discuss recommended options for Nitchar Elementary School. Welcome.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. Thank you for having us back here again tonight. And as you said, Chris Linke, Andy Bladen, and Justin Harkler Road. So tonight, what we are going to review with you is going to review the options. We're going to talk about design schedule for those options, We're going to go through an evaluation matrix and total project cost estimates for those options, and then end with a recommendation and then next steps. Since we last met with you, we heard your comments the last time we met with you. We had the town hall meeting on January 14th. Got a lot of feedback at the town hall. It was well attended and got a lot of good comments from there. And then we've had a steering committee since then also. So during that time, we have gone back and revised two of the options. So you're going to see updates to two of the options tonight from that feedback. Between this meeting and the meeting 2 weeks from now, that will then conclude the phase one portion of the NITROwer, the feasibility study. The next step will be moving into phase two, which would be the actual design of the building. So we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this. So for the options, first option, we haven't presented as a plan because it is just taking the existing building and in the existing footprint, updating new systems, and about 10% of the existing building would be renovated. So when we get to the end, to the evaluation, we'll have the evaluation of that and we'll have a total cost of that. In addition to that, we have additions and renovations. We have the option A and the revised option B, and then we have an updated new building option that you're going to see tonight. So just quickly running through the existing site plan. I know we've been through this before, but to the northeast, the northwest is the commercial area between the NITROwer property and Oregon Pike. Directly to the north is the church. To the northeast is the Worthington development. East and southeast is Lancaster Bible College, and then you have the adjacent neighborhood to the southwest. Looking at the overall site plan, this is your existing site plan. So the green space to the right, to the east are your playground area and your fields. With the building itself, the three wings to the right is the majority of your classrooms. The three big boxes to the left are your gymnasium, auditorium, and cafeteria. And in between is a mixture of classroom spaces and auditorium. Support spaces. You have your bus drop off out front to the south, and that's where your main entry is. And you have a car drop off to the left of the existing building. So just orienting everybody quickly to the existing building plan before we go into the options. And have you all seen before the existing building plan option? So previously we showed three options at the January 8th Facility Committee meeting and at the Town Hall. The addition and renovation option A, we had the addition and renovation option B, and the new option. So we are going to run through those updates with you tonight. So option A is the exact same as you had seen the last time. High level though, just to review it with you, with option A, we are separating the car drop-off and the bus drop-off. The bus drop-off is going to be on the left. The car drop-off is going to be on the lower right. Hold on here. What that red line indicates on that plan is where new addition is versus the existing building. So the red line that goes, dashed red line that goes straight up and down on the page to the right is new, and to the left is existing classrooms, and then we have two additions out beyond that. The intent of option A was to get the large box spaces that needed to be closer to the playground and the ball fields over on that side of the building. So getting into this a little bit more in depth, we'll go to the floor plan in a second. But on this option is the only one-story option that we're conceiving tonight. We have an option B, which is a partial two-story building, and then the new option is a two-story building. This option maintains the auditorium. Although we have moved the cafeteria and gymnasium to the right side, we have kept the auditorium in its current place in this option. So looking at the overall floor plan, what you're going to see with the yellowish orange dotted line on the right and the red triangle below that, that is the main entry coming into the building. And this is your public area of your building. And we tried to move the gymnasium and the cafeteria, the often shared spaces with the public on that side, and move those spaces, as we said, adjacent to the playgrounds and the playfields that are outside there. Directly inside the door, we have the administration. We have the counseling just around the corner and connected, and we have the nurse, which would be close to both the gymnasium and the playfield and the playground. Um, we also put the music room in this corridor. It's kind of like the loud corridor. It is also separated from all of the classroom wings by doors that will be closed and locked during parts of the day. The music is also close to the gymnasium because we have a gym on that gymnasium and the sharing of that stage with the gymnasium and the music classroom. What you're going to see to the left of that area is you're going to see 5 pods of classrooms. You're going to have a kindergarten and pre-K and an envisions in one area, first, second, third, and fourth. So the blue line that you see on the left side that goes north-south on the page is kind of your educational hallway. We're trying to activate the educational hallway. We have the Learning Commons, we have STEAM, we have art, and then we put a number of the learning support classes that are in each of the individual pods, put adjacent to that corridor so they could be shared by all the classrooms easily instead of walking deep into those classroom pods. To the left of the Learning Commons and STEAM would be an enclosed outdoor courtyard. So you could take STEAM classes outside, you take Learning Commons outside, which the administration and some of the board members saw on a tour of the other buildings that we took. And as we said, to the far left is the auditorium with a separate entrance off of that existing parking lot. Any questions on this option before we move on to option B? We'll take questions at any time, but if there's anything else, before we move on to a couple of options, just looking at this from the aerial view, the orange is the new construction. The white is the renovated areas, so you can just see that high level. The other part we want to talk about these options is a schedule to get through design and construction. So with this option, so what you're going to see on this schedule with the blue, the orange, and the red, that gets you through design, documentation, and permitting. So if the board would approve this in February and move ahead in March or April, we're thinking it's an 18 to 20 months to get through design, documentation, and permit approval. The important part of this is because of your driveway that connects to Oregon Pike and because of the work that's being done here, increasing a capacity, you're going to have to improve that intersection. So that involves PennDOT. So that is going to be the time driver for this design and permitting schedule. Otherwise, you could probably get through this much, 6 months faster than that. The green portion at the bottom is the construction. And when we talked about we're building the new big boxes for the addition on this, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the mechanical areas to the right. Typically what we would like to do is you build a new addition, move students in there, and then you renovate the existing building. We're not building classrooms, we're building big boxes, so we can't do that. So what we contemplated was 2 different things. One, can we move the students out of the school to another place while this is being done? Or if that doesn't work, have temporary trailers to move students in. Both those options did not work. There's additional cost to the construction number that you're going to see at the end to make that work on this option. So this is not a highly desirable option because of complication of getting through construction on this. Part of the feasibility study, you look at options, whether you like them or not, and then you dismiss them. We are dismissing this option because of this complexity to it. Mr. Blayton will now discuss option additions and renovations, option B. And this one has been updated since the last time you saw that.
Thank you. All right. So as Chris said, we are going to discuss option B, and hopefully the first thing that you see is that this looks nothing or not very much like what the option B you saw last time. There are some commonalities, right? But last time we looked at option B. This is the next iteration. The last scheme had a classroom wing that was 2 stories, had 4 grades in it, but kind of snaked around the north side of the building to avoid those classroom wings, as Chris just discussed, so you could have students being educated in your existing facility and have those new classrooms built. But we agreed, as we approached the town hall, even that wing kind of got things kind of spread out throughout the site for a 2-story scheme. Right? So we went back to the drawing board, as it were, and where else could we place a 2-story classroom wing on the site? And so we looked at, you kind of think you think about the site in the sense that your existing roadway going in, that's your driveway from Oregon Pike to the building. So it's part of your property. And as you approach the building, you do have that existing bus drop off out in front of the building where your main entrance is. And the more we looked at it, boy, we wanted to test that out to see what that would look like to place a new 2-story classroom wing there. And that's what you see here in the new option B scheme. So by and large, this new wing gets built first and avoids your existing academic spaces, as well as most of your existing core spaces. Yes, you would need to do some temporary provisions, such as a different entrance while this was being built, but any phase construction has those sorts of accommodations to be made. And so what you hopefully see now in option B is a really nice compact plan. And where option A was giving you brand new core facilities, option B gives you those brand new academic facilities for your students, for 4 grades, first, second, third, and fourth. Before I go to the plan, we'll talk about the site here just a second more. So when we build that new addition in the existing pickup and drop off area, it allows us to provide you with 2 separate areas on either side of the building, kind of maintaining the existing driveways and parking on the west side of the site, and providing you within this scheme with a new parent drop off and parking area on the east side of the site. It also allows us to maintain your existing sport fields. I think as you look at the priority matrix, when we get to the end, that may be one full box that isn't quite checked with this scheme, getting those cafeteria and gymnasium areas immediately adjacent to the athletic fields. However, this revised scheme with the relocation of that classroom wing does allow us to get those critical playground areas right adjacent to that cafeteria space and the gym spaces, as well as your littlest learners there in the kindergarten wing, which we'll discuss in a moment. Yep, with this slide right here, hopefully you can see the red lines that outlines those new additions on the building footprint. So we have that new 2-story classroom wing, of course, the lime green area there between that new classroom wing and one of your existing classroom wings that is renovated would be the new administration, the new front entrance to your building. And then we have an existing classroom wing, which we've allocated for those kindergarten, pre-K, and division spaces. That would be a like new wing. It would be fully renovated. Those spaces the appropriate size for those programs. And you think about your littlest learners being on a first floor adjacent to the entrance, the administration, and those shared core facilities, a really strong placement location there. Now, there are some areas that are existing to remain, which we'll look at. You'll be able to see that on the 3-dimensional slide that we have at the end of this presentation. So this is an enlargement of that first floor plan. As Chris said, option A was the only 1-story scheme, but by virtue of this classroom wing, this is a 2-story scheme. And so that new wing, again, provides those spaces for 2 grades per floor with 2 learning communities or neighborhoods at either end of the wing coming together in a common area in the middle. That's all located south of your common areas of the building. This scheme also maintains that existing auditorium, the existing gymnasium, right-sized gymnasium, and learning common spaces. It does provide you, as I had said a moment ago, the new administration and the front entrances to the building, but that also works in some areas such as courtyards into the existing floor plan through some selective demolition as the project would move on. Plan north there, we see those dark blue areas. That would be a reimagined, a reconfigured kitchen and mechanical room, and then new student dining area, and that kind of triangular piece on the plan north side of the plan. Again, that has that adjacency to that courtyard to the south. Same with the learning commons, same with your STEAM classroom with the other courtyard and art spaces. And so you get a lot of opportunities to activate those courtyards with programs from those adjacent spaces in the plan. And while it's not shown in the estimate we're looking at tonight, we do have some dashed lines that, should this particular option be forwarded, there are opportunities with the clear areas on the site to expand the auditorium seating capacity, should that be a desire of the district, of yourselves. But again, what you see here colored in on the plan is what is incorporated into the estimates you're seeing this evening. This shows that new main entrance on the right-hand side of the east side of the plan. Your existing athletic entrance is on the western side of the plan. So in the gold, you see those primary public routes throughout the building, and same as the option A, but just in a different form. On Plan South, that light blue line shows you kind of the academic core of the building and the circulation through that. Just taking a snapshot here of the second floor plan, very similar stacks with that first floor for the other 2 grade levels in that new academic wing. Each neighborhood of classrooms in the dark green being ringed around some common areas, small group and large group instructional areas, some collaborative spaces for your students to get outside of the classroom environment and interact throughout the corridor and the plan itself. Last but not least, then we'll look here at the massing on the site, similar to option A. So in the orange shows those new additions that are occurring on the plan, and in the light, the white there, the boxes show the existing portions of the building that do remain. So this again would be a phased construction project with those new 2-story classroom wings being constructed first to facilitate the moves of students. Maybe before I move on to the schedule there, are there any questions regarding the plan or the site plan? Yes, please.
Just a three-letter acronym question. IPC, little green square.
Instructional Planning Center. We're good for putting acronyms on the plans without fully explaining them. So those would be faculty areas throughout the building, so that your educators would not have to go to the office or to the library learning commons, for instance, to make copies or to collaborate as a team. They have those instructional planning centers, and typically a adult toilet, if you will, associated with those throughout the plan, just to facilitate their day and their schedules that they have to work with.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Rivera, I think.
Just a quick question. There, if I read that correctly, it says that you could potentially add 125 seats to the left of the auditorium. Would that then be able to house the entire student population?
I just want to verify with my team members here. Was that the intention, Justin?
Okay. If that didn't happen, is there a place like a stage in the gym or somewhere else where all the students would be able to fit somewhere here?
On this particular scheme, we're not showing a stage associated with the gym, but the gym could, of course, be utilized as you use it now for those school-wide activities. It would just not have the permanent stage, since you are maintaining the auditorium in this stage in this particular scheme. But you will see that associated stage foreshadowing here in the new scheme.
Mr. Blaine, I was going to ask about the auditorium too. I will admit to feeling some conflict just within myself, where I'm hearing pretty significant community support for the auditorium, while also trying to balance that with the fact that none of our other schools have the auditorium. I think, Neff does. Okay. We're all learning here together, guys. So I obviously lost track of that. Okay. Well, then I guess maybe I have less questions about the auditorium than I thought I had, but I guess it's more like thinking about as we design renovations or new buildings, like having clear eyes or like a really clear assessment of what that space serves, what we give up by prioritizing that space and other spaces, understanding that. And from what I've understood, and please help me make sure that I am at a sound basis here, that these auditoriums aren't in new buildings, aren't in new construction, aren't part of what most future-facing projects include. So,
spaces as you have here, you are correct. By and large, other elementary schools with similar grade alignments that we have the opportunity to design and we're collaborating with school districts on typically do not have spaces like this planned. There's been some things identified, such as the seating capacity of the current auditorium now, right, compared to your student population. But That's why I think this scheme contemplates keeping it, because while you do have two other buildings with similar but maybe not quite the same quality or type of space that you have here, you also have some elementary buildings that have what we typically are seeing, that multi-function or multi-use space with a gymnasium with an associated stage. Sometimes when that stage gets added to a gymnasium, such as that in plan, there's also some interesting opportunities to maybe turn that stage into not a dedicated stage. It can become academic spaces, a large group instruction space that could be kind of multifunctional throughout the school year. So that flexibility is something that we're always thinking about as we design the new spaces. And when we have the opportunity to interact with an existing building like that, that's also the thought of adding that additional functionality to a space like this auditorium.
Well, I was really impressed with how you managed to pull in everything that parents were asking.
Thank you.
We get to keep the auditorium and the gym, which is a great gym. I had no idea we had a big gym like that. It pulls in all the class space. It keeps the little kids on the first floor. And Visions is in a better place. Thank you for thinking of that.
Yes,
I don't know about all the courtyard space in the center, if something could be utilized differently there, but it seems to give us everything we need without losing anything to keeping the gym and the auditorium. We're not giving anything up, right? Or are we giving up playground space, or what are?
I don't think we're really giving up maybe playground space or site amenities necessarily. I think what you just said, I think, identifies maybe what this scheme does best: provide you with those new academic spaces and also maintaining those quality spaces that are good or have good bones within your existing building. Yes, yeah, and just a different take on how to do those additions and renovations. There still are things that need to be addressed, or maybe some concessions that are made because you are working with an existing building. That a new scheme is able to provide a lot more simply, or maybe at a better quality than what an existing space would be. All right.
I guess I need to ask the follow-up question, which
Absolutely.
is, what are the downsides that you see to building around the space we have rather than new?
I think that maybe we can address. Maybe that might be addressed when we look through the priority matrix and the scoring there.
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just wait.
All right. Thank you so much. Last but not least, with this particular scheme, if there are no other questions, just wanted to, again, look at the three-dimensional plan here with the new additions, and then what's that?
Would be higher than the gym.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point to make. Thanks, Justin. That's good with the massing shown here being equitable to the height of the existing gymnasium. That new addition is similar in height to the highest points on your existing building. So. Absolutely. That's why we're all up here. There's good salient points to make as we're walking through the plan. So that's how it would potentially look on site, at least from a conceptual level. And should this particular scheme move forward, really the schedule in the blue, the orange, and the red, virtually identical to what Chris had described with option A. It's really in the green with the construction where there are some differences to highlight, and that would be that you would build a course, as I've been saying, that first classroom wing, but once that's complete, that's when you have a shift within your student body to those new spaces. And then there are different phases of construction that completes the project for yourselves. And so where on option A, you saw the necessity for some temporary classroom spaces, with option B, you're building those classroom spaces that then the students shift to as certain areas of the building are demolished or renovated to give you a complete holistic project. So that's probably the biggest difference between the two from a timeline standpoint. Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify that the last phase of the project is not going to take over a century.
Well,
it goes from 2029 to 3030 and 3031. So I just wanted to make sure, just so to clarify for our viewing public,
absolutely,
that it's not going to take a century.
We always say that we are building for the future, sir.
We are really good at future planning, yes.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. You are obviously 120% correct there. This would all happen within this century. So, thank you. Absolutely. Well, thank you. And with that, I will hand it over to Justin for the final phase or final option.
It is all the more reason to be future ready, though, if it's by the time it's online. So, just to really cover all bases and further develop not only the feedback we heard from you all last time and also through the town hall, but if we are to study a new construction option to really, check off the most priorities off of our list, really we're starting with building completely outside the footprint. So we think primarily about student disruption and limiting that during the period that it will be constructed, but also giving them maximum flexibility with laying out the site, getting as much of those adjacencies that we've talked about as priorities. So what we see here on the screen is really an evolution of what we last talked through. If you recall back about a month ago, we looked at an option that was maybe a little bit more geometric, a little bit more angular, spread out, but prioritizing really thinking about corridor spaces and how students would flow from rooms to collaborative spaces to corridors and kind of blend all that together. We did receive some feedback not only here but in the town hall of what are the angles all about? Did they have a certain meaning or a certain necessity? So we did go back and study how do we keep the essence of getting those smaller learning communities together, but then do so in a straightforward way that was nice and compact, knowing that kids moving from class to class is of utmost priority and streamlining that effort as well. We do see on the site that we're continuing to show a separation of both the bus loop and the car drop-off loop at the bottom. I will say the biggest distinctive from last time is we had shown the instructional spaces on plan north and wrapping around the back. This actually flipped the plan over. So the instructional spaces, classroom, ring in the southern edge and back around on the east side as well. And that moved to give the opportunity to move the cafeteria, kitchen, and gym space to the top side. Looking at those adjacencies then, looking at the play area in the top northeast corner of the site, again, tucking that as close to the cafeteria as possible, as well as the gym. And while there is some corridor to navigate through from the cafeteria to the play area, making sure that is a streamlined effort to be in and out during the lunch period. Zooming in a little bit closer on the plan, really if we start on the left-hand side and working our way to the right, in the middle there is an admin piece where we're up nice and center, right off of the bus loop there on the left-hand side. So that would be one of the primary entries to the plan. To the bottom and wrapping around the right-hand side would be the 3 learning communities here on the first floor, and the opportunity we'll see in a little bit to stack 2 more off of the back side. This will also show the flexibility and additions in the future should the need arise. But if we look at admin and move directly to the right, that would be your learning commons right in the core of the building, equally accessible from all of the learning communities, tethering that with STEAM as well, and giving them the opportunity to have outdoor space directly adjacent there as well. If we look a little bit closer at the learning community in the bottom left-hand corner, thinking that could be the littlest learners and as well as Envisions. They're adjacent to the admin, but also giving them an access to a courtyard that would be private, enclosed, safe, and seem to make some sense as well with that. We are showing not only an entry on the left-hand side, but if we think about car drop-off on the plan to the bottom, that would be the entrance, and really that spine that we see, that corridor moving up to the right of the learning commons. Again, making sure that circulation, once you're in the building, it's easy to get where you're going and streamlining students' navigation as well. Using the same color coding, we're seeing the public corridors there, not only behind admin, reaching up to cafeteria, across to the gym, and further towards the first learning community, but then the private corridor as well in the blue. Moving up to the second floor, this we're showing the potential for maybe that future expansion and building that into the project at this point. So we're really only needing 5 of those groupings right now. But if we were to envision that bottom left-hand corner, structuring that in such a way that an addition, although disruptive in the future, gives you the potential of expanding on-site without expanding your footprint out. And then from a massing standpoint, so looking in at the two courtyards in the middle, both serving the learning communities as well as the learning commons, and then showing how the two-story pieces wrap around from the south side as well to the back. Any questions on this one before we move to schedule? Yes.
You mentioned 2 entry points into the building. So a parent parking in that lower end, would they not have to walk around to go through the office? They would.
So at arrival point in the morning, you'd have bus and car loops separated. Likely during the day, you would have parents parking for incidental uses at the bus area and then through the admin area for that secure entry. Yep. Good question.
I guess no one else. I was going to ask. I guess are there any zoning or sightline proximity to property line implications of shifting the building there, or we're all clear on that front?
We're all within our setback and by right.
Okay.
Correct.
And then, I mean, I guess I'm a little out of my depth in terms of this, but I was trying to think about it. From what I can tell, it looks like the academic wing would receive natural light in the morning if I'm doing my calculations correct. So I'm trying to think about if there's any opportunities to is that a thing, or is that just something that came to my mind that's non-sensical or non?
Nope, it's absolutely
okay.
Students' access to natural light and seeing that circadian rhythm and cue that throughout the day is absolutely a priority of ours. And so you would have the sun working from the right-hand side up southern and setting in the west on the left-hand side. But making sure, if we look at the actual learning communities, we are continuing that notion of the primary instructional spaces being around the outside, and then inboarding the small group instruction, some of the support spaces in addition to the corridor. We see in the bins or the nodes that open opportunity for collaboration, large group instruction with each community as well. So that would have light flowing in from the courtyards throughout the day as well.
And then you had talked about the expansion opportunity in C. So an option B, to do any expansion, it would be out.
Yes.
For even further. Yeah.
Yep.
I want to go back to the gymatorium idea. What is the current feedback on gymatoriums? Because I know right now in Nitra we use the gym and the auditorium at the same time sometimes, so both spaces are occupied throughout the week at the same time. So I'm just wondering how likely it is that we can meet the needs in a gymatorium.
So as we said, most of the new buildings or additions or renovations we do now is a gymatorium. And so there's a couple ways to address that. In that, okay, the gym's big enough to get the whole class in there. The gym space is big enough to get the whole class in there and flexible to move around. That gym is also big enough that you could split it in half. So what we're trying to do to give you as much flexibility with that space as possible. You could split that into 2 gym areas. One could be used as gym, one could be used as indoor recess during inclement weather. You could open up the whole space and use it as a gymnasium, use it as an auditorium. What you're getting to is when you have conflict in schedule. So the question would be, through scheduling, how often throughout the school year would you have conflicts in schedule with gym classes and auditorium? Is it 3 times a year that you're using, beginning, end, and like Christmas? I think it'd be a scheduled discussion about that piece. If you have a folding partition that separates the gym and the auditorium, you could use half of the gym as a small auditorium and still use half the gymnasium at the same time. Again, we're trying to work flexibility into this space.
I will say, if the directive, from the board coming in and maybe valuing option C, the new build, if we were to study a location for an auditorium in addition to the plan we're looking at, that's certainly an opportunity moving forward. We're not discounting that. It's just somewhat best practices at this point, to at least use this as a starting point.
Mr. McKenna?
Yeah, I'm curious, would it be fair to say that looking closely at the current usage is less valuable in this design because this design takes into account a much greater degree of flexibility than we currently have in the current space. So understanding the constraint of Nichara right now is probably not instructive for us when we're thinking about being future ready in a new design on a new footprint. So I wouldn't want us to limit our thinking because of what we've observed to date when we have conditions in place here that allow for lots of different ways we can engage in collaborative ways and using multiple spaces in what I see here with multiple classes being outside of the standard classroom environment and larger groups than just individual classrooms as well. So
absolutely.
I would like to know how much actual classroom space we are gaining in each of or all of these options.
Okay.
We're bursting all over the district, so we have to think beyond just Nichara's needs.
So there's two considerations with what we're showing on this plan. First, the plan as we show it would be able to house about 125 more students than what you have in there now. The other part that I would be remiss if you want to know what we contemplated or the flexibility we have in this plan. Right now, as it is shown, you have the ability to bring Spanish immersion back to this building, which would free up space that you desperately need at Ridewell now and into the future. Yeah, that a built-in permanent space. So you have 125 additional students that you can put in there above your current enrollment. Plus there would be another 100 students with Spanish immersion coming back here, if that's where you decide to go.
And square footage wise, B and C, the same square footage?
You need to tally those. Keep on talking, Mary.
Oh.
You got it. Moving into the sequencing of this, it goes, we see in the bottom line there about the potential about 4 months earlier to get students in the building than the other options. So 29 months as opposed to 33. But along with that shorter construction duration is also more limited disruption to your actual students and whether they're only having to make that move once into a completed building. And that's that. So wrapping up this portion of the presentation, seeing all three options there on screen, any questions for the three options?
Dr. McCarty?
Thank you, Mr. Grunter. I believe, if my memory serves, that this question was asked before, but you had said that the new construction, if that would be built solar ready. Is that correct?
It certainly could be studied and accommodated.
Okay, so that would be a possibility. Is that a possibility with either of the renovations?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
It's easier to accommodate in the new construction, but it can be accommodated in the additions and renovations.
Okay. Thank you.
That might be my favorite question of the night. Thank you, Dr. McCarty. Ms. Woodbury. I guess this is not top of my list of concerns, but I have heard some concerns from baseball families about access to those fields before, during, after. Can you specifically share what that will look like and what we anticipate the impact to be under the various scenarios?
So for option A and option B, the renovation options, other than the time if you would really reorient those fields, that disruption would be probably like a 3-month period or whatever. During the construction of the new building, I mean, it's going to be out for 28 months, something like that. Because you're building the new building, moving in there, then you're demolishing the existing building, and then you're finishing that site work on the end. So that would have the most impact during that time.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on?
Okay, so last time we talked about, if you remember, we have gone over the priority, the Moscow list to prioritize your goals and wants and needs. We have taken that and turned that into a priority matrix. So what we have done, so that was built through the survey that we had in the beginning, the steering committee, the town hall, the facility committee meetings, to um, develop that priority list. That list and the goals, that was developed into this list to evaluate the buildings. So the administration staff and ourselves met at the steering committee to grade each of how well this accommodates the needs and wants on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side, we have facility needs, we have educational needs, enrollment needs, and general needs that we put over there. And the evaluation was on a 0 to 2 on how well it addressed the needs that were listed there. So we went through that process, and basically what you're seeing is the status quo that got 12 points. Option A got 26 points. Option B got 34 points. And the new option got 50 points. The other thing that we've also added on this priority matrix is always understanding what the budget is and what that means to the project. So at the bottom in blue, you're going to see a total project cost for each of the options. So that includes the construction cost plus what we call soft costs that go along, like buying the furniture to put in the building, the buying technology to put in the building, paying architectural fees, building permits, all that sort of stuff. So soft costs are in the neighborhood of 18 to 19% of your construction costs. So the numbers that you see across the bottom are total costs for the project. So the status quo, we have 27 to 31.3 million. Option A, we had 51.8 million to 58.4 million. Option B, did I just say option B? Option B is 53.6 to 60.3 million. And then the new option of 57.3 million to 63.6 million. So going through that process and evaluating it, and just what we had talked about earlier, looking at these options out of the box, we eliminated the status quo option and option A just for the complication of the construction in option A. So looking at option B and option C, we think they holistically, address the majority of the concerns. What this is telling us that the new option just satisfies those concerns a little bit better. It's not that option B doesn't, that's not what the point difference is. It just does it a little better. And then looking down at the bottom, if you look at the high end of that cost, the new option is about 5% higher than the additions and renovations cost for option B. So as a group, the recommendation was to go with the new option. The other point with that is, the points between option B and the new option, they're like 16 points apart. The renovation piece keeps the auditorium. That is the big difference with the renovation piece. The new piece has that flexible gymnasium auditorium portion in it. So tonight, what we're saying, this is information. You're not making a decision tonight. This is information gathering. We're asking you to make a decision 2 weeks from now. And what is that decision? That decision is just to start design. This is a feasibility study. These are high-level concepts. You get into design, you're going to be into 18 months of design, documenting, lots of engagement between your architect and the school district at all different levels to get through that design. You're not saying go out to bid for a project, you're saying start the design. So getting back to the steering committee, administration, the recommendation was option A, just for the new option for what we had outlined.
Okay. Mr. Rivera, you have a question?
Yeah, looking at the matrix, just to clarify what three of the things in the matrix mean. I'm assuming operational expenses would mean it would be costlier to maintain that building, to heat that building. Is that what?
So operational expenses are, the long-term operation costs for that building. The new construction is just going to be more energy efficient than the existing buildings.
And then community responsive building and healthy building design.
So community community to use the building, get into it, being welcomed into that building. Part of that with that new design is there's a really concentrated area. The community can come into it and they can have access to the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and the learning commons right off that main lobby. The healthy building design, that's a simple term for biophilic design. So indoor-outdoor connections, you're getting more light into this building than the other designs, and the healthy design considerations for the building are easier and to achieve in the new building than the existing building.
Okay.
If not option B doesn't have a healthy building design to it. You can just do a little bit more with the new building.
Okay.
Ms. Lang?
So during a renovation this big, I know it's possible to have unforeseen circumstances that come up when the walls are open. In your experience, are renovation budgets more likely to grow than new budget?
So it's a good question. And in our calculation of the soft costs, we have soft costs at 15%, and then we have owner contingencies, so the unforeseen things that happen. On the additions and renovations, we put that at 4%. On the new building, we put it at 3%. You're right. You get into the walls of the existing buildings, I mean, you're not going to know what's behind the walls. You have less of a risk in a new building. Your biggest risk in a new building typically is getting out of the ground. You know, what kind of soils do you have, and getting out of the ground during rainy periods, is it more complicated at that time?
Mr. Bolzar.
Yeah, I think I'm a big proponent of using the priority matrix for decision making. One of the things in my experience is that when you use a scale that's only two numbers apart, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, it makes options look a little closer than they might otherwise be. So traditionally, I've always used the number 139. So if you use 139, I took the matrix and I took every one of them and I made a 0, a 1, a 1, a 3, and a 2, a 9, and you run those down and you add them up. There's a great separation even between B, the renovation B, and new construction. So the numbers come out 54 for the status quo, the current, 106 for Reno A, 126 for Reno B, and 226 for new. And what that really does is, like when I look at this slide right here, maybe you could do B, and I like the auditorium. So maybe when you look at all parameters, they're not even close. So if the auditorium is something that you'd want to consider in here, you'd need to put it into the matrix and you'd need to weight it. And if you weight it, and what that avoids is there being an emotional decision based on one criteria versus the whole list of other. So I think it's really important for everyone to look at this and say, if you did this in another way, there's absolutely, in my mind, like no comparison amongst them all. New construction would be the way to go. Unless you went in and said, hey, I'm going to redo these criteria. I'm going to add the auditorium and other things in there. I'm going to weight them and redo the matrix. But the matrix as is, to me, there's no comparison that the way to go is new construction.
There is a category for reusing the gym and the auditorium, and the new one gets a 0 for that. So it's already
right. I mean, but if I look there and just say like, hey, you really called out, so someone could say, hey, I want to call out the auditorium. I want to make sure the auditorium's there so everybody can look at it. When you're making a decision across options that have complexities, right? It's really easy without doing something like this to get caught up on the one thing that I really like. And so if you're going to use it and you use it effectively here, just separating the numbers a little bit makes it even clearer. What it does is it says, look, I understand you may have a need for like the baseball fields or the auditorium. But when you look at it in totality, it's a really clear decision. It really helps with building the support, having the communication, a discussion with the community. So it's not, oh, but you missed this whole point. It's like, no, I saw it, but against everything else, you can't make a decision on that one thing, or you're going to go down the wrong path. I see, and we don't want to do that. So I really like this laid out. I would just say when we use matrix, if you spread the numbers, it's meant to bubble the top one to the top. And while this does it, it still makes a question, and I just want to throw out there, I don't actually think there's any comparison between the two based on this matrix.
Thank you. Thank you both. I will agree. I find the priority matrix exceptionally helpful and clear. This is exactly what we were hoping for in this process, and we're getting it, so thank you. And Mark, your take, again, also continues to inform and shed a different perspective than I had, so I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time to explain that to us. Any other, sorry, Mr. Balthazar, gosh. Yeah. Mrs. Hens, did you have a question?
I was thinking of one.
Oh, I thought you were on deck. Miss Lamb.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baltazar. I also want to say thank you to RLPS for your thorough work on the feasibility study, because these changes, after listening to community, B is pretty drastic. And from the priority matrix, it looks like renovation B meets current educational standards, but the new build is designed to exceed that. And it remains compliant longer because we're planning for the future, and educational standards have changed, and we do have the opportunity to design a school that meets that standard today and for the future. And I'm looking at the timeline, and I also want to remind everyone that construction is happening from 28 to 30 or longer, which means the students currently in the building will have to live with the construction impacts, and they might not benefit from the new build at the end of the project. So we have to consider the learning conditions that we're creating for the current students, teachers, and staff during all the years of construction, so we can build for the future without compromising the present. And the new build will allow us to do both. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Baltazar, as well. That was so helpful.
I do actually have a question.
Mrs. Hens.
As we go into design, what is the possibility that some of what's missing in B could be brought back? If there are any of the deficiencies in B that can be addressed through design?
Well, going to the next step is selecting an option to go after.
So what I'm saying is then, if we were to say B, but we want this or that, in your opinion, would there be flexibility to bring some of that?
I mean, just like you saw from the last time, but this time, we'll always be thinking how to make whatever direction you'll go, we'll work hard to make it the best flexible option for you.
Okay. Any other questions? I might ask you, Ms. Zimmerman, if there aren't any other questions, to just kind of, again, restate and level set where we're at in the process.
So what I heard was feasibility we're looking at right now, and we'll be deciding on an option. We'll be voting on an option in 2 weeks. That's correct?
That's right. So we have the next step slide here.
Oh, perfect.
So tonight we're reviewing the options with the facility committee, cost estimates, and we gave the recommendation. A week from now, you're going to be presented with a contract for phase 2 to approve a contract with an architect for phase 2. And then 2 weeks is actually to vote on a direction. That we can come back and give a high level update on the option and then give you a chance to vote on the direction.
Thank you, Mr. Linke. And so I'm glad that we're providing this clearly for the public. And so stakeholders, parents, teachers, staff members, students, residents, please email us at boardsecretary@mtwp.net. Let us know what you think. We want to hear your thoughts. We will read everything you send because this is a pretty significant step. It's certainly one of many, but it is a significant step. And I think certain members have certainly indicated where they're leaning, and I certainly have my own idea, and I'm also trying to balance that with, again, the other significant and ongoing needs we have across campus, or excuse me, across the district. And so some big decisions ahead. I think we're as well equipped as we could be at this moment to approach those decisions based on what we're hearing here tonight. Any other thoughts? Any other questions from my colleagues on the board? If there's not, thank you. This has been exceptionally helpful and clear. Appreciate your help tonight. Okay, we're moving on to item 2B. And I am also exceptionally excited about this update, Dr. Ryman, based on some exciting news we had. Well, I mean, I guess exciting might not be the right word, but some news that we got last year about support for our tech education program.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Grenter. Yeah, it is exciting. Last September, the board approved a generously willed gift of nearly $240,000 to the high school technology and engineering department. And the funds came from a beneficiary designation where Ms. Sharon Hargrave named Manheim Township School District to receive these funds to be used specifically toward career and technology programs and resources. So the technology and engineering department and the district office and administration have been in communication on ideas on how best to use these funds in a way that brings the greatest benefit to the students and the staff at Manheim Township High School, and specifically to the technology and engineering department, which was what was ordered by the gift. So I'm here to give just a brief update to the board this evening as we work on the best use of those funds. A series of district office administrators, along with high school administrators, along with the high school technology and engineering department, have met probably 3 or 4 times by now in different groupings to talk about how to make best use of these funds. We're looking at something that capitalizes on our space, both in the immediate and in the long term, in upgrading those spaces and furnishings to the greatest benefit of kids. Our goal is a plan that helps us to make best use of that space in terms of lesson delivery for the teachers in that awesome department, and creative collaboration opportunities for kids, engineering and design model building, and project management, and even storage. And in a safe environment as well, so that teachers can monitor that space and where kids are learning and doing their thing during the day, during coursework. So our plans that we've come up with so far have kind of divided into 3 priority groups. And I can talk to you a little bit about priority group number 1 this evening, which is to take room 188, which is part of the engineering lab expansion. It will include a removal of a wall, along with some necessary upgrades to flooring and ceiling work and lighting, electrical systems, and HVAC as well. And next door in 168, we're looking to expand that lab to include some soundproofing windows to the 2 areas within the lab and upgrading counter space and flooring. And the project will also include the purchase of some new furniture for space, computer desks and chairs and teacher workspace and work tables, stools and shelving, and to be able to store projects and the technology that would go along with upgrading those spaces. So that first priority area, the price tag that we're looking about at this point is about $79,000, but that's without some of the additional construction costs that might be in there, as well as furniture. So I wanted to give the board an update this evening that we're feeling good about that first priority stage and spending that much to work on those spaces. And you're probably wondering about priorities 2 and 3. We're going to be focusing there on the design build lab and making improvements to the digital media lab classrooms as well. So beyond thankful for that gift and the board's support of our receipt of that gift, and it's been a great sort of collaboration between administration and the teachers in that department on how best to use those funds now and in the long term as well.
Thank you, Dr. Ryman. I knew that was going to be a good one. Any questions? I'll say I'm wondering if there's been consideration of somehow honoring Mrs. Hargrave and how we, if if that's ready to discuss publicly or not. Certainly I would support some acknowledgement of that gift.
Sure. Yeah. When the board approved the gift back in September, I did issue a letter to the attorney that worked with the estate on issuing the funds to us, and I did say at that time that we're happy to, when the project is complete, to look for a good place to acknowledge that gift. And I think it's a great idea, and it's something that is on the list to make sure that we do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions for Dr. Ryman? All right. Thank you, Dr. Ryman. Okay, so now we are on to item 3 in our agenda, which is action for voting meeting. That again is just making explicitly clear what we talked about towards the end of 2A, that next voting meeting, February 19th, we will be taking action to choose an option on the pathway forward for design priority for Nitchwater Elementary. So just being exceptionally clear, that is our next decision point. That's our next vote. And please, we have a couple of weeks where we will all be spending significant time thinking about this, and we welcome your thoughts. So now we are on to item 4, Manheim Township community comments. Residents, taxpayers, district employees, and students are all welcome and encouraged to participate. The board won't engage in discussion, but will provide follow-up if needed. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a commenter's card for the board secretary to collect. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes and share your full name before you begin. Would anyone like to make comments this evening? Welcome.
Yeah, I have a comment. Oh, I already submitted. Yeah, I handed it in already. Yeah, Mark Sellers. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we just need that delivered to the board secretary.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall.
So, just commenting on what I see in the paper, the district is disciplined in keeping its annual debt service to just below 14 million, and I applaud you for that, which would allow it to finance another.
I'm sorry, sir. What was your name?
Mark Sellers.
Mark Sellers. Okay, I apologize for. Thank you.
Yep. Which would allow it to finance another 40 to 45 million via new board bond insurance without the need for increased increased taxes, said financial advisor Lawrence Stadel. Facility capital expenditures in the works totaling 70 to 96.5 million. As we all know, things go up, and I'll just say I doubt that it'll stay under that. But the district will need to set aside some additional millage, i.e. taxpayer increases for debt services. The renovations at Nitchwater Elementary School building for an estimated 41 to 68 million. And again, I think that'll go up. Having said that, I toured William E. Nitchwater, and I implore the school board not to look at the taxpayer as an unlimited revenue stream. The school district, just like the tax-paying residents of the school district, must live within our means. Now, Mark, Baldassar, I appreciate what you say. If one believes that a new school will improve educational outcomes, studies show they're mistaken. Studies have shown that the educational outcomes improve when a parent and a student place a high value on education. Now, it's interesting that Reese, Patrick, and Scott came back and changed some things, which was good. William E. Nitchwater has great bones to it. And if you look, the school was built in square and rectangular fashion. And that is serving it well today, and it served well under the additions to 1990, and also the early option 1 and option 2 that they gave. Now, I will say this, that the school was built in 1965 originally. I was at William E. Nitchwater in 1971. Okay, so, but I will say that if touring that school, if you told me that school was 15 years old, 20 years old, I'd believe you. So kudos to the people, the maintenance crew that really kept that facility up and going, because they did a phenomenal job. When I originally talked to and had questions in the auditorium at William E. Nittrower, one of the things that I said was, with the options that they had was, they wanted new construction, and they said, well, we can't have the cafeteria and the playground at opposite sides of the building. And I said, well, that's exactly what your new construction shows. So they changed that. I'm glad they did. They got rid of some of the angular sections, and they made them more square like it should be. What I will say is that what Nittrower has, it has an auditorium. The parents, teachers, and administrators love the auditorium. The new construction didn't have this. Now, you had mentioned about how many students can fit in the auditorium. The auditorium right now is 295, I believe. If we add 150 students, it can't even fit everybody in there now. There's no way that a new auditorium is going to be able to do that. What the school and the teachers told me, the administration teachers, is they have half of the school in for one and then bringing the other half in for the other. I don't know why Reese Lauer, Patrick, and Scott didn't know that. The large gymnasium, everybody loved the size of the gymnasium. That didn't have bleachers. But that said, it is to affect the after-school parks and rec programs, not what's actually happening there. If you really need it, tear down one wall and build bleachers. The library is only second to Schaefer Elementary in size, but has much more usable and practical space, and that's what they told us during the tour. What it needs is it needs a new roof, electrical upgrades. There is an analog system that works the PA. Does it work? Yes, but it's analog, so are some of the clocks, and that's what they said. Yeah, we love teaching our kids clockwise and counterclockwise. Plumbing system, replace it. Wish list and reality. The heating cooling system. Our guide said they need to order parts for the system goes down. My youngest went to the Coast Guard Academy in New London, and what he said was, he's a mechanical engineer, they need to order parts for the new cutters.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Your time is up.
What I'll just say is that really look at the taxpayers in the situation of the whole financials. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make comment this evening? Hello, and welcome.
Hi, good to see you all. Here as a resident, I just wanted to say thank you for your due diligence on this project. As the mom of Nittrower Knights, our kids loved growing up there, and it's always nostalgic to go through building construction and changes. I've gone through those in my 30 years of teaching prior to what I do now. But moving into the future is where we're all headed. So I only ask that you seriously take into consideration your teachers and administration when you make these final decisions, because they have all the answers. They've helped raise our children, and I think the spaces that they work in and probably feel like they live in sometimes should be the best and most conducive. So thank you for your work on this. My kids loved growing up in Manheim Township so much that they talk about raising their families here. So I hope to hear the pitter-patter of little Rivera feet in the new Nittrower as well. So thank you for moving us into the future and for our expanding district, because we are not shrinking. We are always on the rise. So thanks for getting to this building project at this point.
Thank you, Representative Rivera, and thank you for your representation of us in Harrisburg. Hello, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Holly Stockwell, and I am, thanks to like 2 weeks ago, president of the Manheim Township Music Association. So I wanted to thank everyone for voting to reinstate the Manheim Township Music Association. We are very hard at work. I was also very happy to hear at the last board meeting, multiple school board members talk about how excited they were to see the upcoming talent shows at some of the elementary schools. That's very important. And even hearing the comments from earlier today about, all the auditorium talk, and I'm not familiar with Nittrower. However, I did ask for the district-wide facility assessment study. And thank you, Mr. Brentner and Mrs. Marshall, for providing that to me. It was over 200 pages long, and I read it. and it did say updated to 2023. So as we are here tonight to discuss niche hour renovations and other projects needed across Manheim Township, the campus, I wanted to point out some of the findings from that study. So these are going to be some quotes. At Brecht, the gymnasium multipurpose stage room is small with a raised stage. The space is too small for assemblies and may not support additional children from additional classrooms. NEF 2, vacant space. Again, I'm not familiar with how these are exactly used in all the elementary rooms, but it says for the vacant NEF 2 seats less than 400 students, folding chairs are needed to get all the students in the spaces for assemblies. Music risers and storage of educational materials are delegated to the stage area. The school has no chorus or instrumental music rooms. The stage and auditorium do double duty. The music facilities are less than adequate. NEF, gymnasium's multi-purpose stage. The gymnasium is undersized for the student population. There are some scheduling conflicts. The stage lighting is older and in need of an upgrade. Of course, niche hour we've discussed tonight, so I'll skip that one. It does say it's too small. Reidenbaugh, the auditorium does not fit all the students. The people who did the facility study suggested a redesign of the seating to accommodate elementary school students more adequately. Schaefer, the school has no auditorium. The gym doubles as an assembly area. The gym seems undersized compared to the district's elementary schools. It also states the existing stage lighting is mounted high in the rafters of the vaulted ceiling and does not reach the stage. The custodians indicated that the lighting is not used. The Booker, there was no information provided in that study, and as well as latest run in middle school being newer buildings, they didn't notice any deficiencies, although parents have told me the middle school black box auditorium cannot accommodate all of the students at once. So interestingly, in this study, the high school auditorium was not mentioned at all, although it hosts chorus, band, and orchestra concerts from Landis Run all the way through the high school, in addition to the fall play, the spring musical, and many, many other events and presentations. So as a parent, there are a few things that I've noticed about the high school auditorium that I wanted to point out. So the front of house stage lighting needs to be updated and moved. When you see the kids in the shows, if they don't have a spotlight on them, they're in shadow. And they work really, really hard. So I think it would be really, really important that we get to see the faces of the kids as they're performing. There is also no signage outside to say this is the auditorium. We have people come in all the time looking for the arena. I know there's talk about fixing directions to the arena. Let's tell them where the auditorium is so they can come there as well. There's a lack of changing rooms. So when my son was in Mary Poppins, there was a very large communal changing room in one of the big classrooms that the kids use. The scene shop is very small. They have to build on stage. So when there are events that are happening on stage, like the recent National Honor Society, they couldn't build. They had to take a night off of working. So that prevents what they can build on the stage. Also for lighting at the high school auditorium, they need a new cyclorama or cyc, which is a wraparound text. This thing is like making me crazy, I'll tell you guys. It's awesome. I could talk faster. So new cyclorama, which is a wraparound thing. They can project light onto it. The curtains need repaired, and they need new and additional breakers for the demo rack. So as we continue planning for our spaces and look at what changes and upgrades are needed, I asked the school board to remember the comments from their campus-wide facility report and also review what may be needed that was missing from that report. I asked the school board to remember that school auditoriums are places for talent shows and music concerts and assemblies and plays, and it is important that we not disregard the importance of investing in spaces where art is shared with others. Our students, their parents and families, and the public all come to school auditoriums to see the love of music and arts come to life. One more sentence. If we value the arts, we need to demonstrate that by investing in the spaces where it lives. I'll rehearse next.
Thank you. I'll take President's prerogative and share that I did just today sign up to be the volunteer for the Landis Run Talent Show coming up in March. So would anyone else like to give public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 5, which is our adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Woodbury, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenna. Our next scheduled board meeting is Thursday, February 12th, 2026, at 6 p.m. here in the district office. Meetings will be live streamed and recorded for viewing purposes. Thank you to all Manheim Township staff, administrators, and volunteers for your dedication to our students and community, and also happy Black History Month. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Thank you all. We are adjourned.